Explorations. Probing global diversification. We travel the world so you don't have to.
Hi, I'm Nina Hilger, and welcome to Discover the Power of Food with my guest, Janet Jacks. Janet has released a new book called Discover the Power of Food, and in it she will inspire you to make small changes in your life, small, simple changes in your diet to make a big change in your health. I just know you'll love this show. Tell me about the early days of Goodness Me and how you became interested in people and helping people with their health.
Well, I guess it was at first wanting to help my own husband because just after we were married, in those first few months, we were called to my father-in-law's bedside. He was a type 1 diabetic and he was dying of a complication of diabetes, which was kidney failure. And he was just 55 years old. And my husband and he were very close, so that was a really hard time. Now, he didn't die right then. He lived for 2 more years. During those 2 years, he really suffered a lot. He had a lot of heart attacks. He had cataracts, and when they were removed, which was a challenging surgery in those days, he had diabetic retinopathy, so he was almost blind. He had kidney failure, so he had to have his stomach tapped regularly. And then he had gangrene, and then he had leg amputation. And so over those 2 years, he suffered so much. And then during those same 2 years, my husband developed the same disease, type 1 diabetes. And so I saw that my father-in-law had always done what the doctors told him to do, and yet he had suffered so much. And now my husband had the same condition. And so it felt like if we follow that path, we're going to end up where we don't want to be. So I was determined that we had to find another way. If I go back in my father-in-law's story just a little bit, he was 11 years old when he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And in those days, that was a death sentence because insulin wasn't widely available. His mother was abandoned by her husband after the First World War, and she had to figure out how to earn a living because in those days, women did not make a living wage. My own maternal grandmother was both a school teacher and a nurse, and when her husband got sick and couldn't work, she couldn't make a living wage. They were very poor. So my father-in-law's mom, her name was Mary, got a job. She lived in Chatham, but she got a job in Detroit playing for the silent movie houses. And she was a great musician. And there she heard about this new thing called insulin. And there she took her son for 3 months to get started on insulin, and that saved his life. So I was thinking how if it hadn't been for seeing my father-in-law suffer, because I came from a medical family, my grandfather, uncle, and cousin all being physicians, I would have followed the same path for my husband. But having seen the suffering, and then having the fact that my husband had the same condition, those two things together made me search out an answer that was different. And so I'm grateful for that, because if only one of those things had happened, well, I wouldn't have done what I've done. I wouldn't have written the book. I wouldn't have lived this life. I wouldn't be as healthy as I am. So I'm very grateful. But in the beginning, it was trying to help my husband. And then I wanted to teach what I had learned, because I had been a school teacher and teaching was in my blood. And so it was natural for me to start teaching other people what I had learned.
How did you want your story to be different from the
other?
Well,
in the beginning, my husband was a banker, and I had been a teacher, and he wanted his own business, and I had developed a very great passion for nutrition, had come to understand its importance. And so it made sense, if we were going to have a business, that we would open a little place where we could find the things that we needed, because we weren't able to find everything we needed. And so the idea in the beginning was to open a little location that our family would run, that would provide us with the things we were having trouble getting, and we thought that maybe a few other people would also be interested in those things. And so we wanted to provide a service for people to get things that they needed, and also for ourselves. And the idea was that we would run that business, and meanwhile I would teach classes at night and teach people how to change their diet and I would stay home with the children and do that at night, and my husband would leave his work and he would run the business. So that was our business plan. It was very skimpy, I guess, in the early years, and we really didn't know. We thought we'll just run it, it'll be our family business. And so our first location was 1,400 square feet, and we thought we would just run that all our days. We had no idea what we were getting into and what would happen. Now, you asked me earlier, what did we want to be different about, goodness me, from other kinds of natural food stores or health food stores? I didn't like the term health food store. I still don't. I like the term natural food market because it sounds approachable. It sounds good to eat and healthy and delicious. And so I didn't want things that don't taste good. I didn't want things that were unappealing. And I wanted this sense of bounty, of real whole food. I wanted that to include, things that you pick from the earth and produce, of course, and all that kind of thing. But more than that, I wanted to teach people. So I would say education was at the top of the list of things we wanted to be different, and making sure that people understood enough that they could actually change what they did and see the difference in their bodies. It wasn't just selling something to somebody. It was empowering them to change their own life and the outcome of their health. And as I started teaching, I wasn't just looking anymore for answers for my own family, but also for the people who came to me.
Sounds like you've developed quite a passion for your business.
Yes.
And reaching out to people to educate them about nutrition and health.
It's very exciting because I get a lot of written testimonies from people who have made these changes, and I see that they're set free from wrong eating habits. They're set free to live and enjoy their lives, and many conditions that bother them or had bothered them previously fall away when they change how they eat.
Do you have an example of someone who had approached you and said, listen, you've changed my life by doing this?
Well, my book is full of examples. It has little mini stories, it has medium stories, and it has long stories. So there are so many. But people have expressed all different kinds of healing benefits from changing their food. So, for example, brain fog falls away, cravings disappear, mood increases, so they feel happier even though there's nothing in their life to feel happier about. They feel more centered. They don't get so hungry. They feel steady all morning long and are surprised when it's lunchtime instead of craving lunchtime. They find that their energy increases, their sleep improves, their snoring diminishes or disappears. They find that their waist starts to shrink without dieting. They find that pain and stiffness disappear, heartburn disappears, so many things. And when you take a look at Discover the Power of Food, I'll show you. This is Discover the Power of Food, and it's the book that I just finished writing recently. When you look at the stories in Discover the Power of Food, everyone is a real person who has come, learned, changed, and had benefit. And they are telling their stories. And it was hard to select which stories because I have a huge stack of testimonies that came in. But I wanted the stories to represent real people, and I wanted every reader of my book to see themselves in at least one of the stories. So there are younger people and older. There are family members, and there are singles, and there are even seniors and senior seniors. So the oldest person who I wrote about in the book was 93 when she underwent her transformation, and she had great results and was thrilled with that. And so we see stories across the spectrum, and people reporting that their children are happier, that they're spending less time in doctor's offices and more time doing more fun things than that. And so it's really exciting for me to see the transformations that happen. But the first and most exciting transformation was my husband's own transformation. That was the first one. And based on what he experienced and I learned through that, I began to teach people what we were doing. And that evolved into a 10-week healthy living program that we have taught for, well, now in our 15th year. We've taught it for 14 and a half years. And seeing people's lives transform through that has been so exciting. And so my book, Discover the Power of Food, outlines those same types of changes that we encourage people in our classes to make. So it's actually backed by real life stories of 14 years experience. And that just gives me such great pleasure. And now, of course, I'm starting to see the success stories coming in from the book. And that's a whole nother layer of and excitement about what these principles can do for people.
If there's one common issue that you see in people that you would like to see them change, what would it be?
Well, I would say, and maybe this isn't quite what you're asking, but I would say the thing that people are experiencing that they would like to see changed is energy. Everyone wants more energy. Everyone is dealing with fatigue more than they would like to. And when people start eating the way I outline and Discover the Power of Food, they experience more energy. And I see this so often, almost every person, because you see energy is made inside the cells. And when we eat the food that allows that energy to be made, we start feeling an increase in energy. And everyone who feels that is so happy about that. So that's the main and one of the first things that people want and that they actually feel when they start changing their diet.
I've heard people talk about how just changing over to organic food has changed their life in a huge way. But when I hear you talk about it, you take it to a different level to be more aware of.
I do. Yes, I believe in organic food, but we don't have to eat organic food to get some of the benefits that I'm talking about. Organic food can lower your pesticide intake hugely. For example, the Environmental Working Group, which is an independent group of scientists that test our produce items, and they select the dirty dozen, the top most contaminated fruits and vegetables that there are, and they list them, and they do this for the public. They have no political motives behind it. They're independent scientists, and so they put this list out for everyone to read, and they say if you would take those 12 most contaminated items and buy them organically, you would lower your pesticide intake by as much as 80%. That's huge, just those 12. And they also, of course, list the clean 15, the things that aren't as important to buy organically. So the dirty dozen generally includes apples and celery and potatoes and green beans, foods that we eat all the time. And so we need to be aware of that. But apart from that, people can have benefit because I teach them how to eat real food, how to eat whole food, and the third thing that's also equally important is how to balance their blood sugar, because most people are suffering from blood sugar imbalances, and we must balance the blood sugar. So I've been in the training ground of blood sugar for a long time. My husband has taken insulin and is on an insulin pump, so he's been a type 1 diabetic for many decades. He takes his blood sugar 5, 6, 7, or 8 times a day. So everything I make, we have to ask, how did that taste? And then, what did that do to my blood sugar? And so in the beginning, I thought blood sugar was just for diabetics. Then I came to realize, no, that's for all of us. That's for you, Nina. That's for me. That's for my kids. That's for seniors. That's for children. We all need to balance our blood sugar. And so in Discover the Power of Food, I teach people how to eat in a way that keeps their blood sugar steady. And this helps them to get rid of their cravings and the unnatural appetite. It helps them have this energy that comes and just overflows. It helps them to heal so many things that are causing them difficulty, because we have a lot of diabetics, we have a lot of type 2 diabetics, we have many, many more metabolic syndrome and pre-diabetics, and then we have lots of people who haven't been diagnosed with those things but still have very imbalanced blood sugars. And so I teach people how, just with food, how to bring their blood sugars into balance and supernourish their bodies at the same time with real food and whole food. And when they put these three principles together with food that tastes fantastic, well then they love the food and they love how they feel and they want to continue.
How possible is it for someone to completely change everything they've been taught all their life to something better?
Well, we don't have to change everything. And many people have found, first of all, they make small changes step by step. And secondly, I tell them, you don't have to do it perfectly to see results. You just have to get on the path and get started. And so my book is set up as a 10-week plan. You can see, a 10-week plan. And that 10-week plan is very important because we don't ask you to change everything in week 1. We start with the foundation of your day, your breakfast. In week 1, let's transform your breakfast. Let's eat more vegetables. And, just a couple of changes like that. But they can feel the difference all morning long. They feel more energetic. Their cravings diminish. And brain fog diminishes as well. And so they feel different and they want to continue. Because you see, people will change more based on how they feel rather than on what they know. And so my goal with the book is to help them feel different right away. And then they want more of that. They want that energy. They want that steady feeling. So usually within 2 weeks, but sometimes in a day or two, people start to feel the difference. And then they want to continue and feel more of all that good stuff happening.
So once a person makes this big change in their life,
series of little changes.
How easy is it for them to maintain it?
Some people do fall away and fall back into old habits. But one thing I love about Discover the Power of Food is that it's self-correcting. So once you have felt as good as you can feel by eating the right food, then of course you are going to have times where you eat things that aren't on your ideal list. You'll notice how you feel, and you'll think, I'm not going to do that again for a little while because I can feel the difference. I have heartburn. I feel tired. I feel sluggish. I feel brain foggy. Or my pain has been flaring up again. And they'll want to get back. So although some people do fall away, many people find it very motivating to get back on track. And so they know how they can feel. They've experienced it. And that stays fresh in their mind, and they want that.
Is there anything that you'd like to add that we haven't?
Well, one thing that makes Discover the Power of Food different is, first of all, it's easy to read. So many books on nutrition are hard to read, or just have a lot of different tips so that your mind is flying in a lot of different directions. In Discover the Power of Food, I try to take you through a series of sequential changes built on one another, like building a foundation for a house before you put up the walls and before you put the bricks on. And then there are lots of recipes. So Discover the Power of Food has over 100 recipes. And those recipes taste really good. And so the food has to taste good. Then the other thing is that the testimonies are there, and it shows you what you can accomplish. It shows you what real people like you have accomplished, and it makes you believe that you too can also experience that. And so in each chapter, I have mini stories, mini testimonies, but at the end of each chapter, I have a big story. It's 3 to 4 pages long, And in that story, I explain what someone's life was like, what kind of symptoms they had, how they felt, what they were experiencing, why they decided to embark on this journey. And then I tell what the changes are that they made, and then how things are for them now. And then the last part of it is a naturopath, someone who has actually taught the program for us, writes about their healing experience that the person has noticed. And they explain why different things happen, why their energy improved, why their digestion improved, why their blood sugars improved, why their cholesterol improved, or whatever it is that they've experienced. Okay. And so I would say that those stories carry you along. And at the end of each chapter, I list some recipes that you can make that will help you practice that week's experience. Now, in the classroom, we have 10 weeks. But in the book, we also have 10 weeks, but you could take more or less time for each change as you wish. And you also can go back and review the material for yourself. So the book is easy to read, it is motivating, and it has all the practical tools. So one of my goals with the book was to give you enough of the whys so you understand why you have to make those changes, but more of the what and how so you can actually do it. So it's meant to be a practical experience. And what is so exciting to me is that people are actually following it and seeing benefits. And so I've got lots of stories in there of people who've done it in the classroom and had benefit. And now I'm starting to collect and hear stories of people who are doing it from the book and having benefits. And so that's great. A neighbor stopped me in the driveway last month. She honked at me when I was out there, and she said, I was up until 1 o'clock last night reading your book. You don't do that unless it's interesting. You don't do that if you're slugging your way through. I've also had busy moms say, I can pick it up for 5 minutes and I can learn something. And so it's very easy to use. It can become a reference for you. One thing that I know you'd like me to talk about is what are some of those simple changes that people could make that might make such a huge difference for them?
Please share.
So there are a few. So first of all, we want to talk about the quality of our food. So we want to talk about getting real salt, because we always hear that we should cut our salt down. And when I go out to speak to groups of people, they say, I'm going to get healthy, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut down my salt. Well, in reality, I explain in Discover the Power why many people actually need to increase their salt. Because once they get rid of the junk food, which has a lot of sodium and not the balancing minerals of potassium and magnesium, so it's a very imbalanced food. Once we get rid of the junk food and we start eating real food, well, there's a whole big difference in putting salt on your broccoli or in your chicken soup than in eating junk food that isn't balanced with magnesium and potassium. And so one of the things I tell people is, once you're making these changes, eat more salt, because you may need it. Anybody under stress may be excreting too much sodium. Ooh. And so most of us are under stress, especially in North America. And so we need to make sure we're getting enough salt. And one time, I went to my naturopath for an appointment, and he told me, eat more salt. And I had to pay for that advice, but you're going to get it free today, because it is true. And I know it's hard to believe, but when you read Discover the Power of Food, you will understand the rationale of who needs to eat more salt. And it's most of us. It helps with our digestive power. It helps us digest our proteins. It helps to hold water in the body. It helps to create a healing environment. It helps to improve our pH, so many different things. And so salt is essential for life, and many people who are cutting down their salt are actually hurting their health. Now, you may be aware that in December of 2013, Health Canada increased the sodium recommendations, and that was a good move, but it isn't quite far enough yet. And research from several different continents and from several different centers, shows us why that is. Because there are certain good things about cutting our salt down, but there are equally cautions, things that we might be imbalancing by doing that. So that's one simple thing that I teach people how to do. Another thing is that they need to cut out wheat. And I didn't say wheat, I said wheat. Because the wheat of today is not your great-grandmother's wheat. The wheat of today has been changed over and over and over and over again so that it now has approximately 9 times as much gluten as it did previously. And the gluten structure has been changed. So it is no longer easy to digest. In fact, for most people, it's hard to digest. And wheat is causing inflammation and pain. It's causing heartburn and digestive issues. It's causing our unhealthy cholesterol to rise. It's causing heart disease. It's causing allergy symptoms, depression, a worsening of autoimmune conditions, and so much more. And so what I'd like to invite people to do is take 4 weeks, just 4 weeks, and give up wheat and see how you feel. And then if you want to test it out and eat it, you'll see what your body really has to say. Now, giving up something can be hard, but in Discover the Power of Food, I give you other things to eat so that you don't notice it so much. The third thing that I would think is so important for people is to eat more fat.
Really?
I know you're looking surprised. This makes the food taste fantastic. It makes us feel satisfied. And we have to understand that the membrane of every cell in the body is made of fats. And so we need to have more fats, and we need to have the right fats to create healthy cell membranes, which create healthy cell function, which create a healthy body, which lead to energy and well-being. And so, quite simply, increasing your fat and your salt, surprisingly, will help heal your body and will help give you energy and will help you lose weight.
My
because
goodness.
you burn fat. And so we shouldn't diet. Diets don't work. We shouldn't count calories. We should make our calories count. And when we do these things and we start supernourishing our body to help with lots of fat and sufficient salt and food that we love that tastes so good, well, we start seeing all these different things happen. We start seeing the pounds fall away, the brain fog or the migraines disappear. We see energy increasing, cravings disappear, appetite being normalized. We see blood pressure fall. We see depression improve. We see people happier because we are eating ourselves sick. And then we don't understand that what we're eating is actually making us feel that way. Whereas we actually eat ourselves healthy. It's not deprivation. It's putting lots of good food into the body. It's inviting people to supernourish their bodies and enjoy great food. And so it's easy to do. It's easy to do. It's easy to love. And the results start coming. For each person, a little bit different, but they start coming almost right away.
My goodness. So, how would one find support? Well, say I would buy your book. I went to your store, bought your book. How would I find out? How would I get support to? Well,
we have 5 locations in the Hamilton, Burlington, Brantford, Waterdown area. We're going to be opening 5 new locations in Ontario over the next year. So Mississauga is coming first in June. And then we're having a new location in Guelph in September or so, a new location in Barrie in October, and about next February, a new location in Waterloo, and then in the spring of next year, a location in Paris on the water with a nice patio by the river.
Nice.
Now, so our locations all have knowledgeable people who can help you. You can read the book. You can also attend a class, and all of those locations have and will have our 10-week healthy living program being taught So you can attend that where we serve you food, we discuss all these things, where you can email your teacher with your questions, where you can talk to other members of the class. So that's support. But also, we have cooking classes where we teach you how to make all kinds of great food. Goodness Me puts out a magazine called Nourish, and in there we have lots of different recipes and also articles. We have a website with a lot of recipes on it, and you can learn from that. We have free seminars all the time. So if you look at the education calendar for Goodness Me, you will see every single day several things going on. It's hard to find a day to teach a class because the calendar is so full, and we have 5 teaching classrooms.
My
and
goodness.
So we are dedicated to education and to helping people not just try this and try that, but actually having success to eat themselves healthy. Now, not every problem we have can be resolved with eating healthy food. So, for example, my husband still has to take insulin, but he doesn't take any other drugs to manage his diabetic condition, and that's not the usual. Another example would be that when we eat healthy food, it returns us to our natural state. So once we've done that, there may be some other things that need to be addressed with medical attention or drugs or naturopathic approaches, whatever might be right for you. So not everything is fixed with food, but so many things are fixed with food. And when we experience that, we begin to realize we've been going down the slippery slope simply because we've been eating the wrong things. And we've been told that certain things are healthy that aren't. And we've been told to stay away from certain things because they'll hurt us, but we need them. And so I like to say to people, why don't you try it for 10 weeks? It's just food. See how you feel. See what happens to you. And if you don't feel better, you can go back and eat like you did before. But I'm sure if you do it, that you are going to feel different. You are going to feel better. And you're going to want to continue, and you're going to want to learn more. And we're here to see that that will happen.
Thank you very much.
You also mentioned about, coming into Goodness Me to buy a copy of Discover the Power of Food. But you can order it from our website. So www.discoverthepoweroffood.ca. You can order that, and it can be shipped anywhere. But especially if you buy 2 copies or more in Canada, it will be shipped for free. So if you have a friend who'd like to do that with you, order 2 copies. It will come free shipping anywhere in Canada. So you just have to submit that on our website, discoverthepoweroffood.ca, and we'll be happy to ship that book to you. I know that books have gone many different places already, from the Northwest Territories down to the States, over to England, out to Vancouver, over to the East Coast, and many, many more places. And these, as people there come to see what they can experience, they're going to be telling their friends, and they're going to be wanting to experience it too. It is very exciting.
It is. It is. I love how passionate you are to help people become healthier. I love
seeing them become healthy. It makes me cry when I read their testimonies, because I know they've been set free from unhealthy habits that have been keeping them not well. Mm-hmm. And now that they understand that, they can make that choice for themselves.
Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
This has been an honor.
Thank you, Nina, for giving me the opportunity.
For more information about Janet's new book, contact goodnessme.ca. I'm Nina Hilger, and thanks for joining me.